Okay, bestie, sit down. Grab your tea, grab your wine, whatever you're holding right now, because Fat Joe just threw a birthday party and accidentally exposed everyone's business without even trying. DJ Khaled was there. Mary J. Blige was there. Allen Iverson was there. Basically, half of hip-hop history walked through one door. But guess who wasn't on that guest list? Yeah, we're getting into that. Stay with me. Welcome back to Celeb Spill, the only place where we don't just report the tea, we steep it. Today we are talking about Fat Joe's birthday, Remy Ma's loyalty, a golden child who is out here dragging grown men with one Instagram caption, and a certain someone who apparently still hasn't met a child she's been engaged to the father of for years. Buckle up, because this one has more twists than a telenovela finale. So let's set the scene. Fat Joe's birthday wasn't some quiet little dinner with a cake and a candle. No. This was a full-blown hip-hop family reunion. Allen Iverson pulled up. Force MD showed up. Keith Sweat, Young Miami, Pistol Pete, DJ Khaled, Tiana Taylor, Mary J. Blige, and even Jalen Brunson from the championship Knicks. Sis, when Fat Joe throws a party, apparently everybody who matters gets the invite, and that's exactly the energy we love. Now think about that guest list for a second. That's not a random collection of famous friends. That is decades of loyalty, decades of relationships that survived fame, money, egos, and everything else that usually destroys friendships in this industry. And it says something when a man can pull a room like that together, and it's not for a movie premiere or an award show, it's just his birthday. That's the kind of love people can't buy, they can only build. But hold that thought, because the real tea isn't the party. It's what happened after the party on Instagram, when the receipts started dropping. First up, Remy Ma posted her birthday tribute to Fat Joe, and bestie, the caption alone deserves its own investigation. Happy birthday to the biggest, my brother Fat Joe, with heavy emphasis on MY, then a devil emoji. Now, I don't know about you, but when a grown woman puts a devil emoji next to my brother, that is not decoration. That is a statement. She followed it up saying she loves him so much and that it's always been her and Joe. And it wasn't just one photo, bestie. We're talking an 11, maybe 12 picture carousel. That's not a quick tribute, that's a whole photo essay. She even joked about being 19 in the first two pictures and threw in a little side comment about being one of the flyest in the game, basically daring anybody who disagreed to go argue with their mother. That's not just birthday love, that's confidence with receipts attached. Girl, that wasn't a caption. That was a public claiming ceremony. And honestly, after everything this family has been through, the divorce, the drama, the outside noise, I don't blame her for planting that flag. Because when everything else in your life feels unstable, holding on to the people who never left makes complete sense. But then, and this is where it gets real, the golden child posted her own tribute. Happy birthday to my pop, tagging Fat Joe, not her actual father, Fat Joe. She talked about him making peekaboo videos for her as a baby, picking her up from school when her mom was working, swimming in his pool, spending every Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas at his house, and buying her jewelry because he never tells her no. Sis, child just publicly told the internet that another man does more fathering than her own biological father. Let that sink in for a second, because we are about to talk about where he was during all of this. Now let's talk about Pap. Toward the end of last year, TMZ caught Remy looking absolutely immaculate in that white Chanel look, and they asked her point blank about co-parenting. Her answer: whenever she calls, he answers, and whenever she needs him for something involving their daughter, he gets on the first flight to New York. Sounds nice on paper, right? But bestie, here's what makes this interesting. A few months before that, in an earlier interview Remy did with Fat Joe, the description of Fat Joe and the golden child's bond sounded like something completely different. These two were FaceTiming daily, not when needed, not if he can catch a flight. Every single day, Fat Joe reportedly made it clear that as long as he has anything to do with it, that child will never lack anything. She'll be protected, supported, loved, and taken care of. Full stop. No conditions attached. So compare that to what we just heard about Pap. One man is FaceTiming this child every single day, being there for the everyday moments, the boring moments, the homework moments, the nothing special moments that actually build a relationship. The other man is apparently only reachable when there's a flight involved. One of these is fathering, the other is scheduling. And we all know the difference. Bestie. So naturally, people started asking questions. Why does this family dynamic feel so uneven? And here's a theory going around. Some people believe the golden child might represent something Clarissa Shields simply cannot compete with. Because unlike other relationships, this child is permanently biologically tied to Remy Ma. She's not going anywhere. She's not a phase. She is the connection between Pap and Remy that can never be erased, no matter what happens next. Now, let's be fair for a second. The child herself isn't competition. She's literally a child. She's not out here trying to threaten anybody. But some people argue it's less about the child directly and more about what she represents. A permanent, undeniable reminder that Remy Ma will always be part of Pap's story, no matter who else comes and goes. And if the mother in this situation were some unknown woman with zero public profile, this whole dynamic might look completely different. But the mother is Remy Ma, an established name, an established platform, and a history that isn't going anywhere. And when something can't be erased, sometimes people try to erase their own peace of mind instead by controlling everything they can control. That's the theory anyway. You connect the dots, bestie. Now let's talk about the double standard, because this is where it gets messy. Clarissa has thrown shots online, plenty of them, directed at Remy for a long time. People have watched the comments, the posts, the little digs, the constant back and forth. But then she turns around, sits down for a soft, well-lit interview, and presents herself like she's the victim in all of this. Sis, pick a struggle. You cannot repeatedly throw public shots at somebody and then expect everyone to conveniently forget those same actions the moment the cameras start rolling for a sympathetic segment. That's not how receipts work. You cannot be out here throwing digital darts and then cry foul when people call it what it is. The internet has a memory, and apparently so do we. And here's the part that had everyone's jaw on the floor. On Cam Newton's show, Clarissa revealed she still has not met the golden child. Think about that. Franchon Cruz already claimed this relationship started months before it was publicly known, back in February. Then on Tamron Hall, Clarissa said correspondence with Pap goes back to at least 2020. Do the math with me. Bestie, that is potentially 5 or 6 years of involvement with a married man. And in all that time, never once meeting his own daughter. 5 years of calling him hubby and 0 years of meeting his child. That's not a relationship timeline. That's a resume with a very obvious gap on it. Which brings us to the baby talk. Every year, it's the same conversation. Clarissa wanting to have a baby with Pap. But here's the real question, and I need you to sit with this one. Do you actually want to be a mother, or do you want proof that you won? Because a baby isn't a receipt, sis. A baby is a lifetime commitment, and based on what we're watching happen with the daughter he already has, the pattern isn't exactly reassuring. Because let's be honest, some people genuinely believe a new baby will lock a man down. But look at what's actually happening in real time. Pap is reportedly barely around for the child he already has. From the outside, it looks like he keeps choosing this new relationship over showing up consistently for his daughter. So what exactly makes anyone think that pattern flips the moment a new baby arrives? If anything, history tells us the opposite usually happens. And speaking of patterns, Pap has openly acknowledged there are issues within his own family. He's talked about a Father's Day wish for his children to just get along, which honestly tells you there's already been cracks for a while. So if the relationships with the kids he already has are strained, why would anyone assume adding another child into an already complicated situation magically fixes anything? Baby girl, if the foundation is already shaky, adding more weight doesn't build a house. It collapses one. And then there's the money drama. Reports say Pap has sent cease and desist notices over statements he calls false, while Remy so publicly discussed at Angie Martinez's barbecue the claim that he wanted half her earnings during the divorce. So on one hand, trying to legally silence his own wife, and on the other hand, building a whole new future with someone else while that divorce isn't even finalized. Sis, the audacity of it all is genuinely a whole character arc. And finally, my personal favorite piece of tea. At Clarissa's fights, Pap suddenly appears front and center, cameras rolling, front row energy. He's right there in the ring after a win, sometimes so close he was reportedly blocking the interviewer's shot just to stay in frame with her. There was even that press conference where he kept sliding his chair closer and closer into frame until he practically took over the interview. But here's the thing, we don't see that same urgency for business meetings, for record label check-ins, for anything else in his actual career. We definitely don't see that same urgency for his daughter's school pickups. We don't see him sliding into frame for her birthday party. Funny how the camera brings out a level of commitment that daily life apparently doesn't, bestie. Almost like some relationships get the spotlight treatment while others get the "I'll catch the next flight" treatment. So bestie, genuine love story or a long, expensive performance? Drop your theory in the comments, hit follow, and I will see you on the next episode of Celeb Spill, because trust me, this story is far from over.